All right. Welcome back to the Two Old Guys Reselling Podcast. We have with us today none other than Commonwealth picker. Kevin is in the house. What is up, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me. Like I said, I hope this goes well. I'm struggling with a little internet connection, so my apologies to everybody out there if this doesn't come across too good, but we're going to roll with it.
No worries.
If you're like me, the pixelation might actually help the appearance of what's right up in here.
I don't know. You got to. I'm just a whole old guy stuff here. Josh doesn't. How old are you, Josh?
44.
Good Lord, that's not old. Come on, man.
I'm older than Caleb.
Caleb, how old are you?
Guess. Most people are like, what?
I would have guessed you're about my age, about late 40s, but apparently not.
41.
You're 40. You're 41.
Yeah.
41 years old.
Yeah.
Well, what's up with the two old guys? You just act. You're an old soul.
Well,
that's a fact for me.
Yeah, for sure. If you go back to the beginning, when me and Chris Old School Picker started, we just kind of played it off our names. The old paths, old school.
Oh, I see.
Old guys.
I got
That's where we came from.
That makes sense.
I was never trying to be old, but it is what it is.
I hear you. No, I have a confession to make, y'all. I will tell you this, and you guys, I just want to say how much better you've gotten over the months here, the years. I used to listen. This sounds like an insult, but it's actually a compliment. I like that, a little backhanded compliment. I used to listen to you and Chris at 2 times speed just to make it fast, just to make it like normal. And so I've cut it down to 1.5. Now that Josh is on and Chris is off here, I love him. It goes a little bit quicker. So I go 1.5 speed. If you listen to Dave and Carrie at 2.0 speed, you might as well you just lock yourself up in the insane asylum. So it's gotten much better over.
Well, thank you.
That's the truth, by the way. 2.0. I did double speed. I got to get stuff done. I'm like, I want to hear this podcast, but this is Tennessee talk right here. We got to get into at least like maybe South Carolina speed, something like that. So
theirs is more like 1.5 instead of 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I always had to think, or since I've been doing videos, I had to really think not to talk too fast, because I think that connection to Classroom, trying to pack so much in to 50 minutes, all those years. And then, you get in this environment. If you talk that fast, like watching the playbacks and doing the editing, I was like, man, no one's going to follow this. There's no closed captioning.
Come on now.
So.
I don't know. I go quick.
I slow down a little bit.
I do quick cuts and I talk quick, and I ramble a little bit, but I go pretty quick. I think, I don't know. Well, you were a teacher, so that's the way I did things, and especially as a baseball coach, boy, I wanted to jam 3 hours of practice into 2.5 every single day. And where I was from in California, we practiced for 3.5 hours. I got out here and parents were coming to complain to the administrator, like, this dude's trying to practice for 3 hours a day and whatever. I'm like, we stink. Yeah, we're practicing 3 hours a day. We got to get better. When we're better, we can practice 2.5 hours. So I try to go quick, but I guess there's for each their own, right? Just like students. Some students need that methodical, planned out deal. Same thing with eBay sellers. If they're trying to get information, some people just want it to go.
Right.
I've kind of learned that from you, watching you over the last couple of years. Like when I done my first video, I was really, really like blah, just dragging everything out. And, of course, Chris kind of threw me into that. But anyway, I just kind of drug it out, but I'm like, Kevin has this down. He's getting to his point pretty quick, and then it's cut to the next thing.
Debatable.
It's it's more, I don't know if professional's the word, but it's more clean cut, I guess you'd say. Like, you can get, me and Josh was talking about this actually, like if your first minute or 2 of your video is not somewhat gripping, like, you're going to lose a good chunk of your audience. So maybe be more I don't know if informative is the word, but at least be a little bit more entertaining right off the bat, or you're going to lose people.
Need some kind of hook.
100%. It's
Yeah.
just like teaching, right? What are you going to draw? What are you going to draw people in with? And that's the criticism I get when I'm social media, you know, because if you don't have a thumbnail and a title, you're not going to get anybody's attention. And I do that in the classroom. I did that on the baseball field, but especially in the classroom, because I mean, if you don't have them at the beginning, you sure as heck aren't going to have them at the end. So you're absolutely right. I actually, you know, Dave and Carrie teased me on the Traffic podcast about storyboarding. But there's, you know, if I've got some boring item that sold for $8.12 plus shipping, it's not going to be at the beginning of my video. It's going to be at the very end of my video. And the topic and the intrigue and the cuts and all that's got to be at the beginning. And then the people who, you know, like the show and are working while they're watching and doing whatever and just kind of taking it in, they'll be there at the end. So it's definitely a science to that kind of stuff. But you know, I don't know. Resellers are an interesting breed. I'll say that as well. So all of us are a little bit different. There's no doubt about it. We're kind of the misfit toys out there that just don't quite fit in anywhere else, and that's what makes us kind of. I mean, seriously. I mean, we're all here, and we all got here in some strange way, out of necessity, sometimes out of just pure hatred of the real world. There's all kinds of different paths that led us here, but most of those are something went wrong, right? Something didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen, and this is what. Not always, because you get those old school folks who've been picking because their parents were pickers and do it. You get that crowd too. But I think that's kind of what brings us all together. So you gotta get in the mentality, if you're gonna do social media, of the people you're talking to. And that's why the comments are so important. That's why I like the podcast format, because you can really kind of dig into the back, you know, the daily part of it. That's not necessarily going to be in a 20-minute, you know, condensed video or a short, for goodness sake, these days. So, I kind of go through the same mindset. When I first started preaching, especially, you know, not necessarily pastoring, but preaching, that was, like 18 years ago, 17 years ago. Just like all young preachers do, you feel like you need to get up there and go for about an hour. You know, that's the mindset. It's just kind of in your brain. And I got to thinking and studying on it and looking into things. And, you know, attention spans are good for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then people start dropping off. So I pack everything I really, really, really want to get in that first 20 to 30. And I usually try to get pretty well done by then. But, you know, because especially if you pastor, you've got next week or you've got the next service or whatever. Maybe not visiting. So
or whatever.
I would say this, you know, obviously being a pastor, and we've both been teachers. We're not talking about reselling right now, but this is an interesting kind of path. I like this because when I was a teacher, I would, you know, because you're in there for 45, 55 minutes, depending on the schedules in the year or whatever. It was usually around 50 minutes or so. And for me, I basically had the same template I used for my classes is what I use for my videos. I condense it down because I'm not in there for 50 minutes. But there was a predictable flow to the class. But inside of that predictable flow, there were little compartments. And those compartments contained different things, but the flow remained the same. And I did that in baseball practices, and that's the way my show is. If you go back a year ago, you will see that the way my show is set up is exactly the same. People like predictability. At the same time, they don't want monotony. And so if you set up the predictable shell around it, and then what is inside of each one of those three compartments, I try to have, I mean, you see my show. It's the intro, it's welcome back, it's the whole Mr. Rogers thing and all that. And then it gets into those first marquee items, and then the topic, and then the next tier, and then a little bit of education. Then my kids come in. The cats are always in the same spot in the same video. Then my other kid comes in, and then the summary, and then I get to shill for a while. It's the same thing every single day, but inside of that pie, you got a little bit different filling every day.
Yep.
So that's a good way to explain it.
Well, you've got to do that to, you know, you got to have a product that can build an audience, but you have to have something that can retain the audience, and that predictability, I think, when you find your audience is what retains the ones, like you said, the ones that watch till the end. They've been there a long time and they like the pattern. It's got to be entertaining still. Like I said, you can't just be monotonous or boring, but that's so important. It's one of the things I've struggled with, I think, trying to get started here, because I've been in different places. I'm in one room and then the other, still working out of the house, trying to get an eBay space separate from, working inside the home. And so I feel like that's, that teacher mindset. If you've got your routine, I can't establish like a routine yet, but I know that's important. It's definitely something that's coming.
Yeah. And as far as YouTube goes, that's why I immediately knew when my show started to take off, right? Way back when, I knew that I was in one tiny space with a static camera. And I'm like, there's no way this is going to last. I mean, I know enough about, kids and just personalities that you can't do the exact same thing and not have that visual stimulus going on and seeing the same things. And so I literally built 2 cabins now, and hopefully we'll redo that eBay space in there. And so that there's constant different stimulus, and everybody's different. Some people, too much stimulus is too much. Some people want to see things. Some people want to just hear things. Some people want to see it manipulated. I mean, you all know this from teaching. Mm-hmm. So I incorporate all of those things into my channel because it will help people learn, and they don't even know they're learning. This is not an educational channel on the Flipper channel. But I used to tell my kids, if you don't hear something, work with it, do something with it 7 times, you're not going to remember it. And that was the failure of the education system, in my opinion. It was, you teach all this stuff I took 3 years of Spanish, for goodness sake. I couldn't put you together a sentence. We're doing something wrong, right? There's something's not right. Yeah. And it's, you could teach these kids history till the cows come home, and 2 years later, they don't remember it. What's the point? What are we doing? And so I would try to do things where a lot of times people will tell things to me that they learned from me, but they don't realize they learned it from me because it was over 2 years and it was just bit by bit by bit by bit. And that's just the way I would teach people. And that's the way I do it now because it's more entertaining. If somebody's sitting there taking notes and doing whatever, I was a terrible student. I hated school. I'm not going to watch a channel that's going to go through the nuts and bolts of reselling every single day and pull up data and whatever. It's like, pull my hair out, man. No way. That's why I like the Trash to Cash podcast, boys, because you never know what you're going to get.
That's exactly right.
Routine and repetition, whether it's super detailed or not. I think that, like you said, some of the things that I've picked up before I started reselling, I watched several channels, yours included, for a year or two before I kind of opened up my store and started trying to do that. And there's a lot of things like that you bring up over and over. It's just small, but over time it reinforces. It becomes something that's echoing in your mind, and that repetition. Sometimes it's easier to retain those things. I don't mind an information laden video because I'm a student. Like at heart, I love to learn. So. But at the same time, if it's too over, I have to watch it 3 or 4 times, and I still feel like, because I don't want to take notes. I definitely don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's just information overload. But so finding that happy medium is important.
Those are the channels that you look. If you're looking for information about something particular, that's what you type in and you search. Yeah. I didn't want to be a searchable channel. I wanted to be we just ate dinner, it's time to watch Commonwealth Flipper channel. Right. Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to be. And that's essentially what we became. And it makes you feel like you're part of a community more than anything. Right. And it's the same commenters, the same viewers and whatever. And now I've got to know so many of them. It's kind of neat. But that's why I like the podcast format, because people feel like they know you two guys. They understand you. They know your backstory. They know everything. And I think there's that's why I do picker videos, because it's a not totally different audience, but it has the people, they just want to experience something with you. They're not learning, they just want to experience, they just want to see things, they want to interact with people. And that's the way I did that picker channel, where I'm talking to the camera. I think I was one of the first to really just talk to the camera constantly. And then of course the Flipper channel, which is totally different audience in some ways, and then podcasting, and then shorts. There's just there's such a broad audience out there, but you got to meet the needs of the audience or you don't have an audience. So I just like to do it all. I'm a people person, always have been. I love it. My wife, not so much, but she finds the people she likes and she gloms onto them. With me, it's like, whatever, bring them on. It doesn't matter what color, size, doesn't make a difference, man. I love it. I just like people, and I've enjoyed the heck out of this ride so far. So, but I can't wait to meet you guys. I'm sure we will sometime in the future, and I don't know what you got for me today. If you let me talk, I'm going to talk. So you better start asking questions or something.
That's why we got you here.
Caleb's just breathing a sigh of relief because I'm not doing all the talking.
I'm pretty tired. All good.
I have a beef with Caleb though, because I'm watching the show with American Arbitrage, and you're sitting there gushing over Carrie and favorite guy on the podcast and all that. And then you invite me on, and I'm supposed to be like, okay, what am I here? Chopped liver?
You're number 2.
Not to mention,
that can be interpreted in a lot of ways.
Carrie's number 3 for sure for that interpretation. But
man,
at any rate, I see you are in your new building there. What percentage done are you in that space?
Oh man, I've not really thought about percentage. Probably half, because we've got it fully wired. Everything's operational. We've got 4 or 5 lights inside here out of like 12 that will be in here when it's done. It's fully insulated now, and the heat and air got put in today. It got finished today. So
what'd you do with the flooring? The flooring, like this is insulated here. The flooring to me, like underneath the cold air comes in back where I got my air conditioner. There's a little spot in there. It comes in, and it comes in from the floor. Everything else is good.
Do you have yours
I
under?
wish I would have done something underneath it. I have no idea what that is.
Like in the bottom,
the very bottom, like where it's open, you put something there to block the wind.
So apparently not. No.
Okay, that would help.
You guys got to. I know I'm from Virginia and I have this, bluegrass music and stuff and whatever, but I am a Southern California boy at heart, and there was no doing anything yourself there. There was no rugged individual. I grew up in a very the turkeys show up in my backyard on Thanksgiving because they know I'm the only one around here that ain't going to shoot them. Let's all go to Kevin's house.
Go to Kevin's house. On my building, so I've done a lot of the DIY stuff. I've laid floors, hung sheetrock, done electrical, all that. I've pretty much done everything like that. So me and my wife's uncle done everything so far. The building, when we bought the house, this is a 500 square foot guest house. So it was built, it was framed, the siding was on, the roof was on. The outside was basically done minus gutters and underpinning and finishing up some of the porch. So first thing we did was built the porch, built a ramp, steps, connected it to the house. And then we come in here, insulated, wired, all that stuff, got it finished. Now the heat's up. So the next step is sheetrock. And I'm pretty well set. I think we're going to wait until springtime to do the sheetrocking, because to get into this building, you have to go through the mud in the front or the mud in the back right now because it still ain't got grass. And I really don't want to do that during the winter because it's going to be a nasty mess. So I'd rather just kind of wait until maybe spring, early summer, let it kind of get, cleaned up some, and we'll come in here and insulate it. But with the floors, if you put down, especially if you put down like a LVT, which is a luxury vinyl tile, or like a laminate or something like that has a pad, that will eliminate a lot of the airflow through your floors. And you don't really insulate.
When I put this one in, well, obviously, I can't build a darn thing. So it was somebody else doing it. It was actually an old ball player of mine that came and helped me do this. And we took all the money from the Inaman sales. This is quite literally the house that Inaman built. Every dime of it. We just, as stuff we're selling, we were just pouring it into this, buying the building, putting everything in it and whatever. And so I was doing stuff on the cheap because I was still a teacher and getting broke and everything else. And but I was like, hey, look, this chance doesn't come around very often. I'm going to reinvest this stuff. And now that I've got a little bit more money and we were able to do stuff right, I wish I'd have done a few things different in here. But overall, It's pretty much what I wanted. And that second shed, I got to ask you guys a question. Like my flow of the process is amazing compared to where it used to be. I used to be in that tiny little room where I'd film, and it was tiny. I don't think people realize how small that thing was. And I could have about 1,000 items in there, and that's where our store was for years. And it was incoming and it was outgoing. And boy, my wife wasn't happy because everything was outside in the living spaces and whatever. And so to have this space, which is nothing but listed items, that space in there is nothing but listed items and merch for CommonwealthPicker.com. There you go. Have to shield.
There you go.
And then to have the incoming space now, and I know people don't have that luxury, but when I was doing this, I was kind of like, it's got the flow because every minute of the day is valuable. And so making those investments has really, really just this year started to really pay off. And having incoming stuff, I'm sorting stuff like I've never sorted before now that we have Shop Commons and Dibbed It, and we have, obviously eBay. And so I'm able to sort things as I buy them into different places, and they can sit in those different places until there's enough of something or until you can do. And it's really optimized the business way more than I guess not way more than I thought it would, but it's working as good or better than I thought it was going to work. So I'm really happy.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about there, the space to do a lot of those things is so much more important than what people realize. And I like you said too, I understand that that's maybe not even in the realm of possibility, depending on where people live, their situation. A lot of people do work out of their homes, and unless they rent a storage unit because they're in a suburb and they've got a little 1/4-acre lot that they're positioned on, they can't even really put a building up. So that can be really difficult. Now I'm in the country, so I've got plenty of space. And that's the challenge for me, I think, right now is like you said, I'm still kind of in that phase where stuff is scattered all over the house. And, it causes, we're not problems, but you know what I mean? It just gets in our way collectively. When we had Thanksgiving, we had all of my family and her family here. There was like over 20 people here that we had as guests to the house. And for a couple of days, some of them stayed the night with us a night or two. And so like my operation, like you talk about having to bring a halt to things. And so it affects, it affects eBay, it affects all the reselling, it affects YouTube. And so, up to the last day, I hurried and made a big run of packing and shipping because I knew that I do 3-day because of things with my mom, but I knew that it was going to be a couple of days before I could get back to it. And of course, the holiday helped, because nothing runs that day, but everything got shoved into a corner, put in boxes. So then I spend a day and a half dragging everything out to get my picture station set back up, get my, my area where my incoming inventory is, to get it all dragged back out where I can sort and I can go through. And then, it's just a whole big hassle.
Do you have any plans? Do you have any plans to do anything else in the future? Is there a future process plan?
Oh yeah, as far as base wise, yeah. Yeah. I've actually got I've got a metal building that we put up. It's been up 6 months, Caleb, I guess, maybe 6 months, something like that. I haven't been able to do my mom's condition. Her dementia's gotten worse, and I'm the only one here during the day, so I can't leave her. I do everything myself normally, but I can't really even leave her in the house unattended a lot, and so that's kind of hindered the ability going forward.
What's holding it back? Okay.
Yeah, but hopefully, after the first of the year, the plan is to have someone come in like at least 8 hours for like 2 to 3 days a week, and sit with her. So that'll free me up to. I haven't even been able to source hardly for the last 6 months. Like hardly at all. So without I do bigger buys, do a Facebook buy, and I can just take mom with me, go pick up, load up, and get right back to the house. But you got to really simplify things.
I was about to say, when you buy $10,000 worth of CDs at one time, you don't have to source.
Well, it helps if you get lucky here and there. It helps. But
10,000 CDs, huh?
Well, not 10,000 of them, but like just value. It was just a personal collection.
No, gotcha.
It was a lot of rare stuff. Yeah, it was a lot. Probably 3,000 CDs.
Probably
box sets, DVDs, CDs, a whole bunch of it. Probably a quarter of it was sealed, and most of it was 90s, early 2000s, and before the printings. And it was a guy that had a huge vinyl collection, an older gentleman that was in a band, and he had passed away. His son got his collection. He had sold off all his vinyl during the 90s and bought CD copies of everything that he had in vinyl. I mean, I still haven't listed the Beatles stuff. I probably got 200 Beatles CDs just of theirs,
That's a
and
lot of people
and a third of it is sealed, and a lot of it's out of print. So good value stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, those big buys are helpful. There's pluses and minuses to being out in the country, and space is definitely the big plus for me. Facebook around here, like to try to track down Facebook deals and whatever, is not amazing by any stretch of the imagination. There just isn't that much of a population where I'm at. Yeah. And so there are struggles to it sourcing wise, but man, I don't think I would exchange it for being in a city and not having space, not having these sheds and whatever. And I had a lot of people tell me, why did you put up 2 sheds and they're, 90 feet apart and whatever? And the answer, well, I mean, YouTube is the complexity of all of this, right? If you're in a metal building and it's not, I have 2 businesses here. I have a social media business. I have a reselling business, and you got to do what's right for both of them. And sometimes it's give and take. And so to have 2 different spaces that you can film in and that the audio is okay in and whatever, I can't wait to have an upgrade in internet. Good night almighty. It's been better, but the last 2 days have been awful. I haven't been able to connect to the one internet that's like decent. So
right.
We will see.
It'll be night and day. I mean, if you get service like me and Caleb have gotten, we were talking about it before you got on. We're both running off of Wi-Fi today, and I have over 400 upload and download on Wi-Fi connection. So I mean, it's crazy how much better. And that's another advantage. I think like Alabama, they passed like this rural bill to bring high-speed internet to all the. We've got better internet in some of the rural areas now of Alabama than some of the cities have. I mean, because they had really good internet, but these internet providers that are getting paid through the state to bring it to rural areas, they're bringing gig speed to the rural areas. And a lot of our cities don't have gig speed. They might have like 200 or 300 through a cable provider, but they don't have gig speed yet. So it's worked out good for us. Just had to wait a long time to get it.
It's crazy out here too, because when we first got here, ours was running like 15 megs, and within 3 months, they had it upgraded to true gig speed fiber. And I seen the other day, a couple months ago, they were running a whole nother line service down through here, and they've already got it nearly built in for another fiber service that's coming through. And I probably will switch because it's the one I had at my old house. It runs the same speed, but it's like $35 cheaper. So, I mean, I'm cheap, and I'm going to take advantage of that. But I
don't blame you. Yeah, they've got, and they're going to run. I tried to avoid doing Starlink, which is finally available here. It wasn't here for a while, which is weird because it's available everywhere. But there's a few little places in West Virginia and Virginia you couldn't get it. Well, you can get it now, but they got this fiber running out there, and until they get it connected and everything, and then offer it to us, we're just going to battle it out and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
and it's working. I tell people. It was a struggle back in the day. I used to, when I was teaching, I could film everything and whatever, and I'd go to school and I'd load everything up at school. And if I did, if there was a snow day or something, I'm like, well, I got to go to McDonald's because it would take me hours and hours and hours to get a video to get up on YouTube. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that.
But we did it.
I don't know. Was it the first show we did out here, Josh, that I was here? I tried to upload the podcast from here, and it took like 18 hours to upload from this place. And as soon as the new internet came in, it took like, 30 minutes and it was done. So it's definitely night and day. But I have a question for you.
Yeah. What you got?
I kind of feel like maybe you fall into this, but you maybe have a grip on it too. So are you an obsessive reseller? Like if you come across, for instance, you like Tupperware. Okay. If you came across this old lady's house that had 4,000 pieces of Tupperware, would you buy all of it?
Yeah. If the price was right. Matter of fact, I probably have 1,000 pieces of Tupperware sitting on my porch back there. I bought it all for $60, and I bought it all for $60. So it was, I'll tell you, well, this will lead me into one thing, of course, I share all the time, which is my shop commons. And now I kind of started to get away from most of the Tupperware I would buy because I was finding better stuff. I was getting to be a better picker and learning. And so you just start to put old things behind. But there's some of it that was like, hey, I don't mind paying a quarter for something that's going to sell for $15. I'll do it all day long. Salt and pepper shakers and the mixing bowls, and there's so many things that pickle keepers used to go for that. Now that I talk about them all the time, they go for like 8, 9. But and so I'd still pick those things up. But now that I have this shop commons thing, it's like, well, for $60, I'm going to buy all of that stuff. And I'm going to pull out the 20, there might only be 20, 30 pieces that I can sell off independently. And then I'll put things together in the canister lots and stuff and be able to get $25, $30 for those. And then I'll take the rest of it. And because I go around to these, 127 out your way, I go out to these sales and there are people who are selling at these who sell nothing but X. They sell nothing but cast iron. They sell nothing but Tupperware. When I was at the 127 last year, I saw 2 sales that were nothing but Tupperware. That's all they were. Now they were priced too high for me to buy, obviously, but that they were niched down, roadside sellers. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to sell Tupperware lids anymore for $7 plus shipping, but somebody might be niched down, whatever. And so I just take all these Tupperware lids, hundreds of them, put them in a box, and here you can have them for, $30. And, you sell them off and you'll get $600-$700, maybe before you reach Social Security, and have at it. And so it's really freed up my business to sell on eBay what I want to sell. And like I bought, here's a perfect example. I had pretty much quit on the Thomas Train stuff, the motorized cars and stuff, because a lot of them you're getting $7, $8. Some of them you can get $15, $20 for, depending if you have the right one, or you put them in lots. So I kind of got away from that. But once I opened Shop Commons up, I saw a tub full of it the other day, just tons of it. And I'm like, I'm not going to sell these off independently. I could put them all on eBay as a lot, I suppose. But you know what? I'm just going to pass it on to some other reseller. And I'm going to put them over there. I'm going to auction them off and whatever. I don't care. Whatever it gets me, I'm going to take it. And I'm going to make a little bit of money on something that I would have passed up. And it's passed on to some other reseller. And I'm happy with it. And so it's really opened up my mind to a wholesale site, essentially, and mixing it into your business. Really, really good for storage unit people, which I've just now started to get into, because you get these storage units, and I've only got one, but I've got a couple more in the works. There's so much stuff in there that somebody needs. Like I came across just a giant thing of pins, really nice ballpoint pins. It's not something I'm ever going to sell off on eBay, but I'm like, somebody might want this, and here you go, $15, have them all. Boom, sold, just like that. And it's not necessarily to a reseller or anything, and so those are the kind of things that how do you make efficient? Because I don't want to set up at a flea market every week. And if you're going to be doing storage units, you either have to hook up with somebody who is willing to do that with you, take that stuff. I don't want to deal with washers and dryers. And so I've kind of compiled this little team of 3 or 4 of us that it's like, all right, we buy this thing together and we each do our thing with it. And man, I'm hoping it's working as well as it has so far. I'm hoping we can do this down the road. And the fact that I have commons, like I just did a house buyout, and actually I did it with my buddy Joey Pinjo Picker, and the guy's paying us $1,000 to clean this house out so they can get it listed. There's not a ton of eBay. Well, there's not a ton of eBay stuff. Okay, so there might only be $600-$800 worth of eBay stuff in there. But then there's so much stuff like closets full of vintage clothes, but they're not high end. They're not the kind of stuff I'd want to list. And so I'm like, all right, Joey, here's the deal. You get all the money for the clean out. I'm not on the hook for the clean out. I'll come and I'll help you, but my help is going to be, different than loading up washers and dryers. I'm not doing that. It's going to be sifting through this stuff. All right, we're pulling out the eBay stuff. I'm taking this stuff. I'm selling it for myself. You take this, you sell it for yourself. This stuff I'm going to go live on Shop Commons. I'm going to do this video won't come out because I'm doing it on Friday. I don't know when does this video come out.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday. All right. Well, there you go. We'll promo shopcommons.net Friday. I'm going to be walking through that place, literally putting lots together of anything and everything. It might be stuff that a construction person might want. It might be stuff that's just what I don't know. Maybe who knows? But I'm putting it out there for $1. We're just going to sell it. The goal is to have 4 parts to this thing. We've got a guy that's going to come and immediately list everything on Facebook from the house at really good prices and see if we can't get people there to buy it right then at a really discounted tables, washers, dryers, all that stuff, and sell it right there. And then I'm going to walk around and create lots and sell it on Commons. Then we're going to put the stuff that's going on eBay back in our cars, and then we're going to have a dump trailer for all the trash, and then the rest of the stuff we're donating to Goodwill. Hopefully by the end of the day, it's all gone. And we'll see.
That's a pretty aggressive
I'm loving
plan.
the ideas.
Yeah, sounds cool.
It's like an estate sale, but like on steroids in a condensed time and not having to, because a lot of the estate sale companies around here, they won't take a house like this. There's not enough high value in it. Right. And so those people are stuck in that middle range, and it's a lot of them are older, their parents just died. They may be in their 70s and they're not going to pull this. They're not going to be moving this stuff. So where do they go? And so we want to be like that next tier down where, your stuff isn't really worth enough to have an estate sale and to split or whatever the estate sale companies do. And a lot of those rip people off anyway. Some of them don't, obviously. And so we kind of want to be that next tier down. And that's what I want to do in the winter months, because there's 4 months here. You just can't source the way I love to source. So we'll see. It's an experiment. But
no, that's a good strategy, because the way you talked about handling it, if it works out, because the other side of that is without a lot of higher end stuff to sell to make profit on, the time becomes the issue. If you have to spend 3 to 5 days working at the place in order to get it cleaned out, then you're going back really fast because you can't invest time into other things that are going to make a lot more money at the end of the day. So I think, and that's the same way with the sourcing. You were talking about, things you used to sell versus things that you prefer not to sell, or reimagining how you sell them. And I know through Shop Commons, that was part of that. But I had already been kind of there myself, because it's not a matter of whether or not you can still find things like at a yard sale pretty easily. Like you said, even low end vintage clothes that you can buy for 50 cents or $1 and sell for 10. Almost any single stitch t-shirt that's in decent shape, it'll sell for $8 to $10 on eBay. So if you get it for almost nothing, you can make a couple of dollars on it. And there are people out there that do this so part-time that items like that are fine with them. If they can get a handful of those every week and keep a revolving, number of listings at a competitive price, they'll do that. But like for me, when you're trying to make enough income, and I know everyone's reached that point at different stages, but for me, stepping away from the classroom, but then still I'm so consumed by other things. So my time is divided across a lot of stuff, but needing to make a significant enough income to have an impact on the earning ability of the household. Still I don't have the option to just have a bad month 2 or 3 months in a row. So I have to be more meticulous than I did when I was still in the classroom about what I choose to sell and how I choose to sell it. So even though I can get
time is money, baby.
Yeah. Like I could get $3 to $4 more per shirt listed individually. If I can wait however long it takes to sell them, it's still more profitable for me to throw 3 or 4 of them together, take a discount on each one, and go ahead and get them to move quickly for a lower dollar amount, but turn the money over and keep money coming in. And you got to think about efficiency. It's so important, the efficient side of your time,
So I'd say this also, and I am shilling my site, but it wasn't without forethought that I had thought about these things, because what I see is the increasing benefit of niching down for a certain segment of the reselling community. I don't want to niche down. I don't think you guys want to niche down any farther than you have, right? I'm not passing up money in different categories. I'm filming a video now and it's like everything's in a different category. I want to do that. But there is an increasing amount of people, especially with live selling, that have niched down into a smaller market, and they're getting higher dollar because they're the expert in that particular thing, or they're only selling t-shirts on whatnot or whatever it is. They're niching down and they're doing this, or even on eBay. I know people that they source like crazy, and I've connected with some of them locally, but they buy in massive quantity, but they only want a portion of what they're buying because that's what they sell on their store, and they don't sell anything else. And so what they'll do now is they're contacting me, and I am either trying to get them to sell on Shop Commons, and a lot of them have, but some of them don't even want to do that. They just want to take it. They want to just get their money back for that because this is what they were buying over here. And this is what they're known for. They have a following for it in their eBay store, and they're getting premium dollar for it. And so everything else, we're selling it off to that person's niche, and it's not just junk. However, there is stuff that's over there consistently that all of us resellers try not to deal with. CDs, like you just mentioned, CDs. I'm not opposed to selling a CD. I got no problem with selling a CD. They don't take up much space, but it's not really part of my niche unless it's something kind of cool. And, you know, I can get $10 for it. I don't really want to sell $6 CDs. I just don't want to do it. So, but I know there are people who do, and I know there are people who have media shops. You know, there are people buy from us from California to sell in a brick and mortar media shop, 8-tracks, VHS, all this stuff that most of us don't want to deal with. Well, if you can provide it to them for a crazy good deal, there's an Amazon seller over there that buys and buys and buys media. That I'm looking up this stuff and I'm like, how are they making money? They're getting $2.99 on eBay for this thing. Well, it's because they're getting more on Amazon for it. And they're buying massive quantities of CDs from resellers like me who don't sell on Amazon. They're getting them dirt cheap. It's not like I'm making a fortune on these things, but I was able to get it at such a good deal. It makes one transaction where I make $25 on something well worth it when I would have spent hours and hours and hours doing something that took me away from what I do know and what I am selling. So jewelry, costume jewelry, I'm not looking up and researching all that stuff, but somebody just sells costume jewelry, either on live show or on eBay. Yeah. And so just ship it all to them. So there's been a lot of different ways that this thing has worked really good. Yeah.
No, you're good. I was just like you said, though, you also pointed out that things that you either were already passing up that you knew had value because you weren't interested, or that you had started to pass up because you had shifted away from it, that avenue it creates, because it, you know, there may be a lot of money in it if you took time to part it out, but if you can just, because you're there anyway, make another $25, $30, $40 for the time that you're already at that sale, or like you said, having the space in your other building, if you don't buy enough costume jewelry at this yard sale where they're basically giving it away, to have a lot to sell, but you throw it in a tub until you have enough that you basically have $5
that's in. Exactly what we're doing.
30, flip it for 30. Somebody else that's got a following on Whatnot or on Dibdit or something like that, they can go on and then sell it individually for $5 to $7, $10 each and make a really good profit. But yeah, I mean that's it's just good business mindedness. I mean that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I did it with camo stuff. You know, I didn't used to sell a bunch of camo, and I see it all the time out here. Yep. And I don't know enough about it to just cherry pick the good ones. And I do occasionally, and I'll just buy bins of it. And then I might look through it when I get home and be like, okay, I'm going to sell this one on eBay because it's going for $50. All this other $15, $20 stuff, I could care less. Whatever. I'm going to throw it all in a giant box, and I've sold 2 lots of just boxes of camo, right? And a lot of these vendor sellers, they tell me that camo hats and camo stuff, they'll sell at their pop-up, on location sites, and they'll get $10 a pop for them all day long. And if they can buy them off of me for $4 and they don't have to source it and it gets shipped to them, they're all for it. So we've got all kinds of kind of alternative sellers out there. We got a lot of people buying for their antique booths, that stuff I wouldn't sell. And so it's an interesting mix. It doesn't fit everybody's model, but there's especially fits these storage auctions and the people who buy out estates when they're all said and done. It fits their model. And we've got a bunch of sellers over there, but I think we're really close to 2,000 sales in 5-6 months, which is pretty good for just starting. But out of those 2,000 sales, 10% of the sellers are getting 90% of the sales because it fits their model. And so that's where I kind of wanted to be. And it's been really, really fun. And it's really worked. It's changed my model. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And you mentioned the markets. There was a kid I met sourcing in Tuscaloosa who was going to university, and we met at one of the Goodwills. I stopped in while I was in town, and I was talking with him, and he put me in touch. I haven't done it yet, but that's one of the things. Like he makes a ton of money on the side just sourcing the thrift stores while he's going to school. And it's like once or twice a month they do one of those pop-up markets at Birmingham, and so he buys everything camo he can find. He buys every vintage Alabama or Auburn, and even some non-vintage if it's good, like Nike, Under Armour stuff. You know, he's got his little wheelhouse of stuff that he buys, and he goes and sets up at this pop-up market. And he said he gets, half again more than what he could sell on. He don't sell on eBay because he says he would be losing money to sell on eBay.
Oh, wow.
That local market, the crowd that it attracts. I mean, he sells tons of that stuff.
So that raises a good question in my mind, and both of y'all can answer this. But do you think you need a passion for what we do to be successful at what we do?
Well, if you want me to answer that, I think there's two answers to it. Both of them are yes, but in different ways. So, look, if you're not, there's two things. If you're passionate about something, you're going to be excited to do it. You're much more likely to do it, and you're much more likely to be successful at it. However, there is the other type of the equation where it's necessity is the mother of invention. If you got to pay your bills, it doesn't make a difference. You can be passionate about your family, and that will help you sell, right? I mean, so there's that. Now, I do think that the passion, if you can, Josh Galt, if you listen to PPP, this is the direction he's going, and I really admire it. It's not where I want to go because I'm not that passionate about any one particular niche, but he is just fully embracing what he loves to do and going all in on just that. And I have no doubt, because he's so passionate and so smart, that he will make it work. I think that's the beauty of reselling. You can be a glass seller. You can be an ephemera seller. You can sell matchbooks. I don't care what it is. You can become that person. We talk about Daily Cabbages, my good example. She became the Cabbage Patch person. And she, follow her on Instagram. And she sells the heck out of Cabbage Patch, and she does it in a way that she can garner top dollar for it. And so there's money to be made as an everything seller. There's money to be made as a niche down seller. And you just got to find what you love and figure out what's best for you. And that's why I started Shop Commons. That's why I love Dibdit is my passion, 80s, 90s, 70s nostalgia kind of stuff. It's my favorite. That doesn't mean it's my most profitable, though. And so I want to have a passion project, and I know you love toys, and Chris was just a toy, guru, and and that's what he loved. But you got to make money too, right? And so if you can make it in your niche, make it in your niche. You'll never work another day in your life. If you can't make it in your niche or don't want to, then don't.
Very well said, Josh.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I think it really. It's great to be able to be successful at something that you're also passionate about. But I think if you survey the working world, that's just a tiny little percentage. I mean, heck, the majority of the people that go to, school, go to college, get, even advanced level degrees, wind up, they chose their path like a lot of us did. But a lot of them wind up in a profession where they're not truly passionate about their profession. They may feed you something that's kind of sounds like they are, but the truth is shown in their face. The truth is shown in how they go about their work. But at the end of the day, I like the part you mentioned about family. You got to find a reason to be motivated either way. And success, I think, is less about being passionate about what you're doing and more about just being passionate about getting something done. You've got to find a way to be intrinsically motivated, to do what it takes, to be committed, to be efficient at what you're doing, and to stay on task. I mean, it's just that way. Now, like you said, I do think if you can find a way to link those two things up and be passionate and also have those things, that's the dream scenario, right? But at the end of the day, the bills are still going to come. They're still going to be knocking on the door, still coming in the mail. You're going to get the notification on your phone. This is due. And if the lights are going to stay on, whether you're passionate about it or not. I'm passionate about music, but I've never made a dime on music. And I don't mean like selling music. I'm talking about like playing music, singing. I've been involved in that my entire life. I mean, my entire life. And I've not made a cent on that.
Mm-hmm.
So of just being super
Mm-hmm.
passionate about something, and I feel like I'm pretty decent at it. But if that was enough to be successful, then I should have already made it. But I'm 44 years old. That's not going to happen. I mean, that ship has probably done sailed a long time ago, and that's all right. But that doesn't mean that we can't be super successful in something either way. And that's what it really comes down to. I think it's to have passion for what you're doing, even if it's not what you saw yourself doing. I mean, you got to find a way to motivate yourself to be successful.
Discipline too. I mean, once you have
Absolutely.
it, I mean, a lot of people are motivated and they tell themselves, "Oh, it'd be great to do this," and "Oh, I want to do it. I'm going to do this someday." You don't have discipline; it's not going to work anyway. You could love something to kingdom come, but if you don't have the discipline to take the first step, second step, third step, it's not going to work. And that's the one thing I had going for me is I'm a very habitual person. I create habits, and I try to create good habits along with some bad ones. And I just don't stop. And it's because I like it. But everybody, even if you like something, you need a break from it. You need to turn your brain off sometimes. That's what my wife's job is, turn my brain off every once in a while. But I just do the same thing. I mean, it's like a routine. It's like, that's why I didn't do podcasts like this a lot, because it's like, okay, I got to carve this out of my little, OCD routine and whatever. But once it becomes part of it, I think, that's where the real success comes, is when you get somebody who's passionate, but understands the steps that it takes, fully embraces them, and makes it come to life. And reselling is just that way, and just not sitting in your bubble. I said this before, I hate live selling. I hated it from the get-go. But it was part of my big picture in order to make what I absolutely love, which is the static eBay selling, work. It was going to make everything work better if I would embrace live selling to a certain degree. Unfortunately, I didn't, fall in love with it on whatnot. But the fact that I can take what I do like, which is building things, because I said before, I can't build things, but I can build communities, and I can build, processes, and I can build relationships, and that's my passion. Dibbed it is my passion at this point, and so is Shop Commons. It's like my music, right? For you, it's that something, and it's to have that thing where you can get a bunch of people together and build something and start to learn people's names and communicate. District is my jam. This is the way that I'm learning people. I'm understanding them, what they want, what they don't want, what makes them tick. The same buyers coming back, building relationships, typing in, "Hey, I'm looking for this. This is what I sell." And then so when I read that in the comments and the threads over there, I'm like, okay, when I'm out looking for stuff, if somebody buys patterns, like sewing patterns, I'm like, man, shoot me. Why would I ever, right?
Yeah.
But they have a booth, an antique booth full of nothing but thousands of patterns, and they have their customer base that comes back. So I'm like, shoot, I come across 2 bins full of patterns for $5. You better believe I'm buying it.
Yeah,
I'm buying it for that person, and I'm going to make
Absolutely.
$40 on the thing, and they're going to make $200 on the thing, and everybody's happy. And I just love it. I just love everything about it. There's a few things that need to happen, but I'm selling it hard. Can you tell?
No, you're good. Like a big part of it, I think too, it goes back just like my situation the last several months. Everyone's got different, when I was in the classroom, you've got the summer, but I mean, you've got a lot more limited time to go and to try to source. So I know there's a lot of people that have sourced off of eBay by buying larger lots, and there's other ways. I mean, you can buy storage lockers, you can go on and do, online bidding on lots and stuff like that. But to have it more specialized, that's the thing. Like that's what you're doing there. I think that solves a problem. It really, that's what it comes. That disconnect that so many people have. Like they want to do this, they want to do it to a greater degree, but they don't have the access. And so those that have the time, that are already out on the trail, so to speak, hunting the stuff, and like all those things you pass over, well, it fulfills a need. There's a need out there, and that was I think the most admirable part of it is that it's just that connection. You see that opportunity, but I mean, there's opportunity for you there too, and for anyone else that sells on there to be the sourcers, for others that they don't have the time to do it for themselves.
Well, I'm just looking, and there's a lot of criticism of it. I'll be honest with you. And there'll be a lot of people who listen to this and who'll go check it out, and they're like, "This is junk. I don't want this stuff." Well, this is the key to it, is you really got to become a part of this community in order to make it work for you, because let's face it, we're all resellers. We all know what we're looking at. If you see a lot in there, it's like, dang, I can make some money on that. It gets bought like that. Yeah. And so what you see over there is the same people. As soon as those listings come up, they follow those sellers, they're gone. And so you got to be a part of that community in order to really tap into those things and make connections. Now you can do listings specifically for one person. Like if there's one person who does storage units who has sold like 30 CD lots over there, because every time they come across CDs, they put them in giant lot and then they sell them. And now they can sell them to the exact same person every single time, and it never even gets on the market because they just make a listing and tag that person in it, and they're the only one who can buy it. And so you got to be a part of it. Like I just look at Biggs Collectibles, who's helped us out. He just sold a huge early American ephemera lot, pamphlets, books, pictures, whatever, giant lot, stuff that I would never dig through, learn, and sell. But there's ephemera sellers who sell nothing but ephemera, and they bought that thing right up, right? So it's postcards, 800 postcards. Just sold.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So I don't sell postcards. I'm not doing that research. I'm not doing that. It's not my gig. But somebody wanted them. 800 postcards, $65.
Sometimes, but it's that kind of convenience thing. Like I would never. This is how my mindset has changed. Like I have no desire to become a postcard expert. But for me, when I'm sitting for 3 hours, with my mom, sitting there in static position, something small like that I can have right there beside me in the chair, that allows me to continue to be productive and try to, do something to add some income where I would otherwise maybe have that time lost. And so that's, I'm seeing, we all have to, evaluate our situation too. And so I see opportunities. It's one of the reasons why I bought more music, because that's something that I can put a stack of beside me, and I can be running comps and even listen. I mean, I can put a white board down on a small table in front of me and just lean over and take pictures if I have to be right there in that spot and can't be at my eBay area, I mean, so.
And there's a lot of folks like that. There's a lot of folks out there who can't source in the wintertime, right? Or maybe they're elderly, maybe they're disabled, that's why I hate the people out there on social media that will, you can't make a living selling $8 X, right? You just is stupid. Don't listen to those people. Listen, there are so many people with different. Some people aren't trying to make a living. Some people are on disability. Some people are retired. They're trying to make $200 a month, for goodness sake. Yes. And they got, they're storing stuff in a bathroom because they live in a tiny place. Let them have their gig. And not only let them have their gig, we can help them in this scenario.
Right. Hey, Scott, when he was on Cha-Ching King, he said, because he has a lot of people in those types of situations in his area that he reaches out to and does stuff to help. But he's talking about how, you got to get in this mindset. Like you said, not everybody doing this is doing it for a living. And some of those people, he made the comment, $300 a month, $400 a month, $500. If that's all that's life-changing money for them. That takes them from barely being able to make ends meet or always being behind by $50 at the end of the month to having everything paid up and having a little money in their pocket if something happens. Like it is literally just life altering for them to have an extra $400 or $500. And I see it. I mean, my mom, before she moved in here, I mean, she was living in a home that she still had a payment on, and she was getting $1,270 a month. Her power bill was $300 and $400 in the summer and the winter. So you think she was able to pay all her bills out of that? I mean, not at all. I mean, so if it wasn't for us, us, my brother, different, how that stuff goes. So for someone like that, if they were able to do something themselves, and she would have rather done something herself, I mean, that's life changing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's hit our segment. I promised Kevin about an hour, and I don't.
You could go. I don't care. You're good for an hour and a half. Let's roll with it.
Let's roll. Let's hit our sell of the week. Always, when I have a good,
I gotta look at my sales.
I like hitting this one because. But it's good anyway. So let's hit up sell of the week real quick.
Sure.
Josh, you go first.
I have to look.
Kevin's looking.
All right. Well, I got a couple things because we didn't go last week. A couple things I one I thought was I've had forever. I didn't think this was going to sell. I had almost thought about taking this out of the store recently and donating it, but I had this. It was a vintage leather jacket, but it was double goose country, the goose down leather, kind of like the mid thigh. There's a longer length coat. But I sold it finally. It's been in the store for like 2.5 years. Sold it for $90. It's going to Canada. But like I said, it's one of those things. It's been up on a top shelf. I went back as I was going through old inventory here recently and kind of revisiting prices. I thought, I just need to just chunk that, and I didn't take it down. And it sold about a couple of weeks after I did the revision on it. So, but my best sale was music, of course. I had another good music sale this time. I sold a lot of zombie CDs, 12 zombies for $145. And the guy that bought that actually bought several other lots from me. He wound up spending on about $230, I think it was, something like that. So I sold like $230 worth to one guy.
That's pretty good.
Very nice. Very
Pretty
nice.
good.
I've got I don't know. I got to dig through. I sell so much that well, that sounded arrogant. I got to ship it out and whatever. So to go back in the week.
Well.
Kevin, the megastar with us.
I'm looking at my items that I just sold that need to be shipped, and that's only 2 days worth of stuff. So I got to go back. But I sold a San Marcos blanket, which I've never sold before, $70 plus shipping. I've got a pair of vintage Harley Davidson chaps that sold for $108 or $105. A couple of Barbie dolls from the '50s sold for $108. I'm trying to find high dollar sales here. Oh, Tarzan 1990 snow globe sold for $100 plus shipping. So that's nice. Little popcorn holder for Rocket Raccoon guy, Ruby, whatever that thing is, 75. So I've had some cool. Those aren't always my favorite. The Modella ice chest sold for 95. I like the ones that I love finding stuff that's not listed on eBay. That Modelo cooler wasn't listed on eBay, and just make up my own comp. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
And then see if I can sell it. So there's some good ones in there.
That is some good stuff. So I feel like this is a pretty good sale that we had, especially when you take into account that I haven't listed for like probably 40 or 50 days. Anyway, to me, I feel like that's pretty good. So Tanya sold some more silverware. This time, one buyer came in and bought a set of forks, spoons, and salad forks for $388.
Whoa. What kind of silverware is that?
Oneida Rushmore.
Okay. So see, that's the thing. Like, I've skipped that kind of stuff for so many years, and I just started picking it up probably 3 years ago.
I did the same thing, and I'm telling you right now, we spent $40 on everything we got at the Oneida stuff. And when I got done, I made myself a spreadsheet because I was just super interested because it was so much, like 500 and some odd pieces. So I made myself a spreadsheet and I tallied in my listing price times how many I had, so on and so forth. And it came out like $9,800 or something was what the sale, everything sold full price, it would be nearly $10K. And I do have a sale going right now, so it's a little bit cheaper, but I mean, 4 forks for $65 and 4 spoons.
We're not even talking about sterling here. We're talking about it's
killer what some of this stuff sells for.
Yeah,
like I said, he spent $40 and he's able to make lots of these. It's quantity listing. So you do the 4 fork listing, but you have 12 of them or something like that.
I can't point right. These totes here, which are the same as those. That's one of those is full, and it's probably like 300 or 400 pieces. That's the whole footprint is that one tote, and I've got I don't know probably $5,000 worth left. If I'm guessing, we probably sold about half of it. But it was so funny because she sold all that, and then it was literally last night at church. I had my phone off, and once we was leaving, I turned it back on, and I have literally 6 sales, boom, stacked up, and it's Oneida. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be good. And it was another $200 and some odd worth of silverware. I'm like, man, this is killer.
You know me, I don't pass up an opportunity to promote something. So I'll say this here, Joey, my buddy, he's been doing storage units for a while, and he finds silverware all the time, right?
Yeah,
that's what you find. Now, a lot of it, it's low end, it's nothing, it's worthless, it's whatever. But there's people who make jewelry out of this stuff.
Yeah.
There's people who sell it off individually. There's whatever. And I was like, dude, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? You want to look through it all? You want to learn about it? You want to, because you can't just like, here, put this on eBay. You got to research it. You got to get the pattern. You got to get whatever.
That is one of the more complicated things you do have to do some homework on.
But replacements.com though, I mean, it's got the same thing as Google Lens on it now.
Yeah, it's
you can do the photo and it narrows it down super fast.
Yep. And they got
and it's actually starting to work on eBay as well. The lens on eBay on some of the patterns is starting to work as well, which is a big plus. But he's like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, dude, all right, just put it in a bin. I said, when you get the bin full, sell it off on Commons. And he did. And so there's been multiple silverware sales over there. Right. And so if you know what you're looking for, well, but that's the thing. You got to go over there and ask people, because there will be some people that don't want to go through the process of even listing. The whole point of this is to get it gone and to get it gone quick and to not spend time doing it, right? And so we have video listings where they go over there and just like, here it is on video. You know, you might know what you're looking at, or this person doesn't want to know what they're looking at. They don't even care. Yeah. And so, you know, there's just so many ways, but you got to get into it and connect. You got to put hey, I sell silverware. I sell whatever. There's people who make jewelry out of X and they get whatever. And so that's what I mean by it's not your typical, it's a community. You got to get in it and you got to communicate and you got to talk to people about what you're looking for. And you might make those connections with people. So
for sure,
that's just another plug for it. But see, I won't pass up on silverware, but what I won't do is dig through a box of silverware. I'm not going to do that when I'm outsourcing. It's just not my gig, right? So
I don't do it.
I obviously look to see if anything is sterling, because I got a $1,500 set of sterling I paid $90 for the other day, right? Well, not the other day, a few months back. But I'm not going to be looking for it. But if I'm buying storage units and I'm finding silverware, I'm just going to pile it up. You know, if I see a whole set or something that looks good, got a cool pattern to it, then I might do the research because I've got a bunch of it. But I'm not going to do the research if it's piecemeal and there's 6 things and whatever. So
you've got to think in terms of volume, though, if you're accessing that amount of inventory on a regular basis, because otherwise you'll get piled out in a hurry. I mean, you just can't do it.
Well, ours was such a great.
Do you come?
It fell at it was just a perfect scenario. So Tanya, we're at this yard sale, and she asked this guy. He had 5 trays, I think it was, or 6 of those wooden trays, plumb full. That's the silverware. And she said, how much for the silverware? And he's like, 50 cents a piece. Now, granted, there's 500 pieces, right? So $250. So I just, like a normal reseller does, I said, well, what do you take for all of it? And he says, well, what would you give me? So I'm like, you asked. So I said, $20. He said, how about 40? And Tanya said, and I'm about to shoot back that 30 number. And Tanya said, that's good. That's good. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, I was about to save $10. But the what made it so easy was it was all the same stuff. He had condominiums that he stocked. He restocked it with all new stuff and pulled all that out. So he had it was everything the same. So I ended up with 20 listings of quantity, 20 of this, 20 of that. I mean, it filled my eBay store up like that. So that, and I'll tell you right now, you take one of those spoons out and look at it's a spoon, man. There is nothing special, no design. It's a smooth spoon. And I'm like, why is somebody paying $95 for 4 or 5 of these spoons? Like that is crazy.
But here's the thing. You just said he stocked his condominiums with it. So, I mean, how many places in the country are doing the same thing and maybe have that pattern? And rather than redoing the entire group, you know, as people are throwing them in the garbage or losing them, you know, that rent, they're having to go and buy replacements. And so if it's a discontinued pattern, especially where you can't go buy it retail anymore, then it automatically runs the price up. But if you can buy it secondhand and not have, because flatware is expensive to go buy out of the store. I mean, anyway, even if it's still new production, if it's good stuff. So
almost any set will sell if it's a set at this point, because it's cheap. You can get it so much cheaper than going and buying some of these newer sets. It's like, what in the world? My wife bought us some the other day on eBay. She's like, I'm not paying what the Walmart. He's like, I'm just buying some generic set just because the kids lose it and Reagan takes it in the car when she goes. She's like, I'm not paying those prices. So she goes on eBay to get it. And I'm like, well, I did have 2 sets in the cabin, but whatever.
Okay, so I have something interesting I wanted to talk about before I forgot this. I don't know, and I know, Kevin, you've made like a ton of videos, so you may not remember this because well, no, you might, because it's back, I believe, when you guys had the Trash to Cash barbecue bash out here at the Cumberland County, the Park restaurant, I believe is where you had it. Chris tried to get me to go to that, by the way, and I was so new, I was afraid to go. I didn't know anybody. I was scared. But anyway, I almost came, but I didn't. But so in one of those videos, while you were here, at the end of the video, you filmed buffalo out in the field. You remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You were literally in my backyard.
Really? Okay, I know exactly where that is.
That field ties into the stockyard and just goes kind of back into the fields through there.
That was at the old house.
The old house, yeah.
That was right down the road from the Airbnb we stayed at.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, you was probably literally 5 minutes from me. Yeah. That's cool.
Interesting.
We've been really close.
That's one of my other little things that like I said, I don't play music. I'm not an artist. I can't build anything. I like to build businesses and communities and whatever. But the other thing I loved when I was growing up is the Sunday morning CBS show at the end of it, where they would show the animals at the end of it. I don't know if you remember that. They would show different scenes of nature and whatever. I'm like, I don't know what it was about that. I could have cared less about the show, but my parents were watching whatever. I'm like, I love that. And so I've done that on a lot of my videos, and I still do it. I still like it. I love animals and stuff like that.
Well,
so
if you would have turned around when you was driving up through there, if you would have turned and looked back, you could have seen my shed. Like you can see it from the road. And I
still have that ending.
Do you?
I still have that ending in my phone. I edit every video I've ever made, save one. I edited from my phone, and I've done 2,000 videos. Gosh. And I still have that. I still have that ending, and I use it maybe once a year. It's a longer one, but that it just walking up, and I just love that one. So I'll have to pull it out.
They used to walk. They would walk right up to the fence in the backyard. Like I could go pet them, which I wasn't going to, but And another little tidbit: my wife's uncle actually owns those.
Okay.
So,
well, cool. Don't tell him. I don't want to pay a royalty or anything.
Yeah. Oh, you're not the only one. Trust me. People stop back there all the time. Sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, because they would stop and you'd see the Facebook post, "Oh, these buffaloes should be running free, and this guy's got them fenced up." And I'm like, "Come on, give me a break."
Wow.
You're going to turn them into a burger. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, exactly. But I thought that was neat because I told Chris when it happened, I'm like, "Dude, did you see his video?" He said, "Yeah, what?" I said, "That's my backyard. Like he is back there filming the buffalo." So I thought that was neat.
We were in Florida. It's always when I'm driving, sometimes in Mike Death Pile Picker, he drives a lot when we're on the road, or all the time, I should say, begrudgingly nowadays. He used to like it, but now he can't stand it. But any rate, and I'll be like, pull over. I got to film whatever. And now I got him like look. He's like, "You want to film that? You want to film that? Whatever." I like that. I was playing golf with Harry Tornado one time, and I beat him, by the way. Thank you, Josh. And there was a bunch of turkeys going through the golf course, like tons of them. And then later on, we're down there, and there's like a bobcat or something. I don't know what the heck it was, some kind of mountain lion or something. I'm like, man, chasing a deer. I'm like, this is like, and I'm like, I need my camera. I had my camera earlier for the turkeys, but I didn't have the other one. I got to miss it. Hey, you got to write off the trip, right? If you're doing B-roll, at least I write a portion of it off.
Right.
Exactly. I have one more important question, and I know this is the most important question.
Carrie. I like Carrie more than Dave.
Oh, that's
no kidding.
That's actually kind of close. No, it's what is your favorite podcast? And you can only answer 2 old guys, or I'm going to mute your mic.
Oh my goodness! I'll tell you what. You guys, are you doing every 2 weeks at this point, or is it still every week?
It's my fault. My fault. Okay, it's all me. This renovation out here has killed me. Like, just absolutely killed me. So last week,
no excuses. No excuses.
There really
That's what I'm saying.
Excuses.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
I'm making them though. Yeah,
listen,
it's just killed
trash
me.
to cash every week. And Dave was gone for like a month, so we had to film like 2 a week for a month. Man, it was brutal, but we get that thing done, and Dave is the driving force behind it. There you go. I'm making you feel guilty. All right,
that's you it worked. Thank you for twisting my question into a guilt trip.
Well, listen, I enjoy almost every reselling podcast. I really truly do enjoy, even the bad ones. I won't mention them. But I always like. I hate to say this because Mike will get a big hit. Because I enjoyed Reseller Leftovers quite a bit with Dan on there. I love Dan. I met Dan. He's a great dude, and Jimmy and those guys. And Joe is a good guy. He came down here. But I was hoping I would hate it with Mike on there, but I don't. I really enjoy listening to Death Pile on that one too. So.
I still haven't heard our name.
You guys are good.
Okay.
That's okay.
Well,
That's okay.
what do you want me to tell you? Yes, 2 old guys. But look, clip this and turn it into a short. America's #1 reselling podcast. 2 old guys. Come and check it out. Subscribe. Hey, by the way, if you're over here listening to this because I'm here, which I don't know why you do that, but definitely give them a subscribe here. They're stalled because they don't want to do 1 a week.
Me, Josh, 1 hour and 16 minutes is where the short is going to be. Okay.
So I've got a question, but it has nothing to do with reselling at all.
Yeah,
I know that you're, no, actually not baseball. I know you're a big baseball guy. So,
okay.
So the new Juan Soto contract, what, 765 million with incentives could be upwards of 800 million, they say, for 15 years. What are your thoughts on like how that's where that stuff's going? I mean,
they better win a World Series in 5 years because 10 years from now they're going to be very disappointed.
But I mean, just contracts in general. It seemed I thought when the Ohtani contract
I'm a free
came
market
out,
guy, man. If you want to make a dumb decision and pay somebody,
but geez, man, come on. I mean, it looks like within 5
too
years.
Much.
I mean, if you're like me, I mean, I remember when A-Rod got his contract, his big money contract with the Rangers the first time, and it was mind blowing that they would pay that much for a player to lock them in for that amount of time. But then it feels like we're going to be less than 10 years from the first $1 billion contract in baseball, and it just
let me just say that he will be as old as you when that contract is out. Okay. So do you feel like you could go out there and perform at that kind of high quality level? There's no chance in 15 years that guy's going to be earning that money, right?
Yeah,
now, they're not paying him to earn that money in 15 years. They're paying him for that first 7 years, 8 years of that contract when he can still play baseball, right? I mean, he's going to play longer than that, but you just can't. It's like the Pujols contract with my beloved Angels and whatever. It's you have to pay too much for somebody. More than they're worth in the long term of a contract in order to get them. Right. And so they just make that decision in baseball these days. And, the Ohtani contract, they will make money on that contract. They will not make money because he's so marketable. And your advertising revenue, they will make money on the Ohtani contract. They will not make money on this Soto contract.
I do think, I do think the part that maybe gets lost is, I know you said it's paid for that first 7 years, but you also look at when they stretch it out over 10, 12, 15 years, that back part of the contract, it's not just that they're paying for the prime years up front, but by the time we get another 7 to 10 years down the road, what is going to be the buy-in cost even for a role player at that point? What's going to be the cost for an aging superstar per season if the contracts continue overall to slide upwards like they've been doing. So, I mean,
I think that's kind of my point.
They're kind of guessing at how revenue is going to increase over the next 10 years. And if revenue increases and the player share increases, then
money makes you money, right? And so, yes, you could pay this guy less let's say you pay him 10% less and sign him to a 15-year contract, or 30% less and sign him to a 10-year contract, because that's what you're going to get out of him. He's not going to produce 14 years from now, right? No. And so the idea is you're spreading out what you're really paying for him, so that you have the money makes money, right? So you don't have to pay him what he's worth now in order to, you can take the money and make it make money. That's what a lot of resellers miss. And that's why I actually asked you about that question, like, what are your future plans? Because I think what a big mistake, and I've been doing this for years, long before YouTube money and all that stuff, and the Animan and all that, before anybody knew who I was. A portion of every dollar I made was put into an account for investments in the business. And it was a very small portion because I had to live on. I mean, I was a teacher. My wife didn't work outside the home, man. I mean, we were pinching pennies. Mm-hmm. But to work hard and make sure you have no debt, and to be able to put, even if it was, I tell people this all the time, my Roth IRA, I put $25, $50, I think. I'm trying to put 25 in because that's all I could afford, but I think they wouldn't let me put that little in. And so I would put that tiny amount in, and it was almost irrelevant. But the fact that the mechanism was in place to do it, when you do scale something, even if it's a little bit each year, if the mechanism of the percentages are in place, then you scale that part of it with it, and then you're accumulating capital in order to make that big purchase, in order to get that shed instead of that paying that storage unit. It's what we did with this solar, which I thought, it was a gamble, and it paid off because solar's energy prices went through the roof, which really helped out. And it increased the value of the house because energy prices have gone through the roof as well. So that was a bit of a gamble. I don't suggest people do that kind of stuff, but it was a calculated risk. But the fact that I was, because of my discipline, in such a good place, making no money. I was making nothing. I mean, I was making, you were a teacher, and this is rural Virginia. So, people were like, oh, teachers make good money. I'm like, no, you don't make good money here. So, no. We were living, day to day. I was selling to make sure I didn't go in debt. I don't buy new cars. I don't do whatever. And I put these mechanisms so that when the door opened, surprisingly, thank the Lord, where I had an opportunity to seize it, I was in a position where I could do it. And I didn't have to leverage my life or put my family at risk to do it. And so I think that that's a big part. Money makes money, and debt, borrow from the future to pay for the past is a sure way to make poverty last. And a lot of people they don't manage their money properly, and they want to live a lifestyle that they don't have enough money for. Yep. And I think that's the one thing people ask me, like, well, should I quit my job or whatever? I'm like, do you got any debt? Oh yeah, no, you should quit your job. Do them both. Pay off your debt. then think about it, right?
Yeah, for real. Absolutely. That's kind of the approach. You said about the income, and I've told people this for years. My first contract when I started teaching, my monthly income was less than $1,600. It was like $1,658, something like that. That was what I got a month, and I was working at a sawmill full time. My first year out of college, I didn't get a teaching job, and so I was working at a sawmill where my uncle worked, training to grade lumber. I was a nobody. Now I grew up around that type of stuff with my dad, so I had some experience in it. But again, I wasn't certified in anything, so I was making I think it was 11 or 11.25, something like that, an hour at the sawmill, working 48 hours a week. My monthly income, even paying $100 a check for my insurance, was more than what I made as a teacher. Now I worked 12 months, it was a full, but I had a ride to work. I rode with my uncle every day. I didn't have to spend gas money. So, I lost money when I went.
Hey,
teaching.
We can't all be preachers and work one day a week,
Exactly. And so, but it was a pay cut to do that. But one thing that I did, and I think, that's a point worth sharing with anybody, and just if you adjust your lifestyle and live, and like you try to live within your means, learn to live within the means that you have. Over the years, like once I got to a certain point, like I got a couple of raises, I was making a little over $2,000 a month. At that point, I started doing like the 504B plans and stuff like that. I was a part of 2 or 3 different things that the school system had. They would change it sometimes after 5 or 6 years, do a different, provider. But I got to the point every time we got any kind of raise, whatever raise we got, I just put whatever extra I was going to make into whatever that plan was. If it was going to be an extra $150 a month, I just put the money in that. And so by the time that I was leaving, it was like $550 or $600 a month that I was putting in to those plans. And my thinking was, once I learned to adjust and live off the income that we had, and I'd take on side jobs and stuff for extra pocket money, like, because I did construction work in the summer. I'd take on extra stuff with the school. I did after school program where I got, $500-$600 a month, working through a community college, doing tutoring and stuff. So I did things to add money, because you have to, like you said, you have to do something to make ends meet. But as far as my regular check, every time I got a raise, I paid myself for the future, because we already had determined we can pay all our bills out of this check if there's nothing else. And we can always pick up side work for spending money on vacations. And
I've never said this before, but I'm going to say it on here. Plus, I don't want Caleb to respond to my attack, so I'll just filibuster. So, and people, because that was my big fear, because I'm not dumb enough to think that, hey, I'm 47 and I'm going to make YouTube money for the next 40 years. And no, I'm not. You're right. Things change. People, and so I've got this window in my life where it's like I can't get used to living off of all these good things that are happening, because 5 years from now, likely many of them won't be here. And so part of that is why I'm doing Dib Dit and Shop Commons and whatever. But my budget has changed very, very little. I haven't gone out and bought any new whatever. It's about, there's no sense in it. For one, I'm happy. I was happy when I was making no money. I'm not going to be any more happy later. And so I pay myself, to this day, the exact same salary I got as a teacher my last year of teaching. Now, we certainly take drops out of my business account when we do anything that we wouldn't have been able to do back then, like go on vacation or to do a home repair that we would have put off in the past.
Right.
But my monthly income matches my monthly income that I had when I was teaching. And it'll go up, because you can't live, it's going to go up, but you can't live on the same that you get to live on back then. And those drops out of but separating your business accounts and doing things like that. My operating budget for my business is astronomically bigger than it used to be. And it's providing me more opportunity, like to do a house buyout or do storage unit or do whatever, or travel for the social media part of it. I wouldn't travel. I wouldn't have enough money in it. There's not enough money in it to go traveling all over the country and paying for this. But because the business and the social media, it allows me to write that stuff off and whatever. So I do it. But I don't know. All right, Caleb, go ahead. You can respond to my attack.
I was going to just let you have it. You done filibustered. So
all these preachers out there, they like, do you have one service a week? Do you have what?
Oh,
is that
no,
what you have?
We still have Sunday morning,
on Sunday.
2 Sundays and Wednesday.
Yeah. I meant your Sunday morning service. You have one. Is what I meant.
Yeah, we're very small.
Okay.
We have.
So you do three a week then? Is that what you're doing? 3 sermons? Okay. So I used to do 3 before 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. Just saying.
Yep.
Hey, we got to do 25 sermons a week. I'm just, teacher's boy.
I totally understand. So I'm gonna choose the high road. And no, I was thinking of something that I've said preaching when you was talking about the debt and living too far beyond your means. And people tend to think, like you said, that's going to somehow produce happiness, but happiness depends on happenings. So it's true. You can make yourself happy, but happiness dwindles. It don't last, right? Joy 100%. Will last, but joy is based on Jesus. So if you think you're going to find lasting contentment in the things you're buying or obtaining or whatever, it's not going to happen. You're just going to end up miserable.
Are you listening, Dave? Dave? ADH Dave?
Pay attention, Dave.
I mean, it's just
I've been on both sides of it, man. I know I've had the stuff and no money. I'm not saying I've got money, but I've had no debt and a little bit more stuff. And the scenarios are all the same. You get something, you want something. You get something, you want something.
Yeah.
But when you just find contentment with where you're at and then you get something, you can enjoy it because you're like, well, that's just another blessing, you know, and you don't have to worry.
Well, listen, I tease Dave right there, but the reality, and this is the truth, you know, it's why I connect with those guys, is both Dave and Carrie. I mean, everybody wants money. Everybody wants to be comfortable and not have to worry, especially if you got a family and all those things. But I can tell you, and people, you know, they tease me about money and whatever. But the one thing that the three of us have in common is we will be happy regardless of success or money. I'm telling you, like Dave could, you know, he likes different things than I like. You know, I like to sit underneath that tree and relax and to whatever, you know, and he's got to go. And Carrie's one of the most content people I've ever seen. Too content sometimes. I want to get him up off his butt and get going, but he loves what he does. And as long as it's enough, he's happy.
Hey.
And that's where I think a lot of resellers are. They don't need to make $500,000.
There you go.
They just want to make enough to live and to be able to control their own lives. That's what makes me happy. The fact I don't have to wake up at 5:30 and go teach somebody else's kid. I can hang out with my kid. That's what makes me happy.
You know,
and
even with the education thing, and this is what I used to tell kids that I taught a lot. I said, you know, a lot of times we look only for the job, what we talked about earlier, that's going to be that we can be passionate about and feel like we're going to be fulfilled by the job. And I told them, I said, you know, when I was trying to choose a career path, I wasn't thinking about, okay, what am I most passionate about, or what job do I think I'll enjoy the most? I looked at it with a very broad lens. I thought about, okay, what is it that's important to me? And money wasn't near the top for me. I mean, yes, you got to have a certain amount to subsist. I didn't want my family to be, you know, searching for a meal to eat when I had a family, but I wanted to have family time. I was fortunate that my dad, he retired from the military in 1980, 81 technically, I think is when his paperwork come through. And so I was born in 1980, and he was there, you know, pretty much my entire childhood. He did work a little bit early on, like public job, but mostly with his retirement coming in, he chose to do jobs that he could do from home. And I got to have lots of time. And I think I just had a different appreciation and value for that. And so for me, like, as I looked out, you know, to the future, like I wanted to have time for family. I wanted to be as free as possible. I thought, you know, I can have less money and still be way more content by having those things. I wanted to be able to not have to, you know, miss stuff at church and family events, not just my household family, but like when things are going on, I wanted to be able to be free to go do as much as possible. And that's what I saw education, even though the money was not as good. I saw that as a setup that allowed me to work in a rural area, which is where I wanted to live, all these factors, you know, and be near to people that I wanted to be near to open that door and provide every part of the lifestyle that I was interested in, maybe besides, you know, the bank account part, but that wasn't so important to me. And that's the same with reselling. I think reselling for me, it's not about, you know, you want to be efficient and you want to do well enough to make it pay the bills. And it's okay if you do better than that. But for me, it's more about the flexibility. And I know you hear that from a lot of people, but the flexibility that it affords me, the fact that I'm able to leave my job that I had, even though it wasn't taxing on the time as much as some jobs are, and be able to stay with my mom when she's no longer able to take care of herself. And not everybody can do that, but through, you know, reselling does enough for me that I can do that. It does enough for that. And that's good enough for me. That makes me happy. So,
hey, before you let me go, I got to say something real quick, because whenever I do these shows, then I get a lot of people come over to Common and they'll apply to sell or whatever. I want to give a little. There's a thread over there. If it's something you think that might fit you or that you want to try as a seller, read the community guidelines thread and watch the video at the end, and then apply and say that you watch that and you watch this show, and then I'll approve you. But if you don't say you watch that, I'm not going to approve you. There you go.
All right.
Except for you two guys, if you want to apply, you're more than happy to. But hey, thank y'all for having me on.
Yeah,
and we'll have to do it again sometime. I've enjoyed going around these podcasts, and it's something I never ever did for a long, long time. And I started to because I wanted to shill the district stuff, dibbed it in at Shop Commons, but I've enjoyed it so much that I think I'll try to do at least a few a year, and I just love podcasts. So
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Yeah, well, we greatly appreciate you taking time and coming on with us and speeding up our talk a little bit this week. That's appreciated too.
This is my people time, so it's great.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, and I'm going to try, Josh, to record 2 or 3 times in a row if I have to, where we don't ever miss another show.
Hey, there's something to be said for that. Dave won't let us. That was his one requirement with Carrie. It's like, Carrie, we're going to do this every single week. I got on episode 14, I think. I don't know I think I've done 150 some episodes at this point. And I've missed from time to time, but the show goes on. So it's consistency,
Yep.
Right.
Well, best of luck to y'all. Subscribe, y'all. Hit that subscribe right now and listen to them every week.
We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. And it's been an honor. It's been good to talk to you face to face. Had a good time. All right. Well, Josh, anything before we leave?
I don't reckon, unless you want to just skip the other stuff for this time.
We don't have a comment of the week. We didn't have a comment.
Well, I didn't know if you going to do not going to do a dad joke. You afraid to lose again?
All about that. Oh, whatever.
I mean,
people will miss it.
Every episode.
We'll throw in our dad joke real quick, and then we'll head out. All right, Kevin, you got one?
All right. Do I got a comment or a dad joke? Because Turner's in charge of those dad jokes. He's got them down pat.
You ought to know a couple then.
Oh man, I'm so bad at remembering his jokes. I don't even think I'd come up with one. I should have come up with one today for him to do, and then I'd have it. So I'm gonna have to pass on the dad joke. You have to watch Commonwealth Flipper. Come on over and join us.
There you go. All right, Josh, you go ahead.
All right. So a stoner, a Jedi, and a surgeon walk into a bar. Blunt force trauma.
Pretty good. That's pretty good. I like it. Okay. You guys will appreciate this one. So a math teacher, that's why you're going to appreciate it. He says, if I have 5 bottles in one hand and 6 bottles in the other hand, what do I have? The student looks at him and says, a drinking problem.
Oh, man. I think we lost Kevin.
Yep. Well, at least he waited till right at the end of the show.
Impeccable timing.
Impeccable timing. But yeah, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. Until next time, this has been 2 old guys and a really old guy. I'll just say it like that. And we will see you next time.
See you guys.